Hello everybody, it's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and on today's episode I want to talk about a lot of things. It's kind of a mishmash here, but there's a lot to talk about, a lot to show you, and this could take a while. So let's get right into it. First of all, if you look right behind me, you will see my finished dime door wall hanging. Now, if you're not familiar with Dime is an embroidery company in the United States. Dime stands for Designs in Machine Embroidery, and over this past year, starting this past January, each month they released free one of these door designs, and it was files that you could put in your embroidery machine, and it's basically in the hoop applique. And there's one for each month, and each one sort of centers on something that makes that month a little unique. The original idea for these dime doors was to sew them out, and then they had a frame that was available that you could hang them on as a display in your home decor, and each month you could swap them out. I didn't want to do that idea. I'm not one of those kind of people who, constantly keeps changing my decorations depending on the season or things like that. Although having said that, I have started to do that with things like table runners, mainly because I have so many of them made. But what I want to do is what you see here. I want to put it together as a wall hanging. So I did, but I wasn't really sure as to what design I wanted to use for this. So I went with the attic window. Now, if you remember back, maybe a month ago, I did an attic window with a panel, a Christmas one. And actually I showed that again in a couple of episodes ago where I showed you all my Christmas decorations. And I kind of liked that style. And I thought this might be appropriate for this. You're looking out a window and you're seeing all these houses. Well, the one thing I didn't really think about was the reason there is the illusion when you put this together of looking out a window is because what's beyond the window, the framing, is one picture, one panel, which has been sectioned off. So it's like the bars in a window are, intersecting your view. Well, I didn't think about that. And so each one of these is a separate view. It's not continuous, not broken up by the window panes, so to speak. So really, you don't get the full illusion here of the attic window, the way that it's designed. However, I still think it borders each little panel or each little piece, door, nicely. And so I put some borders on it, and it's done. And I think it turned out pretty good. There's a few little bumps in this, there always will be. I mean, I'm never absolutely perfect, okay? But I do have a place, I think, where I'm going to hang it in my rec room after Christmas. Right now there's something else in that spot, and I think it'll fit right in that spot very nicely, and that's where it's going to hang. That will be its new home. I've said before, I'm running out of wall space to hang things up. It's going to start looking like a quilt museum in here very soon. So, yep, I got that done. And actually, I didn't think I'd get that done until into the early part of next year, but I'm on a roll. So, I got that one done. Now, last night, we had our guild Christmas party. It was done virtually through Zoom. Let me just get a little bit more comfortable here on my stool. And it was a lot of fun. It ran from about 6:30 till about 10 o'clock. We played some games, which are really fun. They were, they worked out better than I thought they probably would. So that's all due to our vice president. She put this all together. She spent a lot of time on it, and it came off brilliantly. So thank her for that. But one of the things we did, which I kind of thought was I got to choose my words carefully. Not a stupid idea, but I thought, do we need this? And that was everybody before the meeting, a few weeks before, several people went out and delivered these bags to each member of the guild. Now, the bags themselves were made by those of us on the executive. We each made about 8 or 10 of these bags. And we have about 70 some members in the guild. And the bag was filled up with scraps. Now, we have a scrap table at our guild meetings when we used to be able to meet physically. And there's a lot of garbage, quite frankly. People are getting rid of their scraps because they don't want to throw them out, but they don't have any use for them. So they go in this big pile, and the idea is people can go and sort through the pile, and if they see something they want, they take it. I've looked through the pile, and I've never been that impressed with what the scraps are there. There's a reason they're scraps, okay? But anyways, every one of us got one of these bags, and we opened them all up at the same time to reveal what our scraps were. And I just realized I'm not wearing my microphone. So this might turn out a little better now that I've got my microphone on, I hope. I'm going to open it up for you. I did not pull everything out of this bag because I just didn't last night. So I'm going to pull it out now, and we're going to take a look at what's in here. Packed in there pretty tight. Whoops. Here we go. Don't get them in my coffee. Oh yeah. This bag is full of scraps. Anything more? Oh yes, there is. Another one. Okay, let's take a look at what we got very quickly. Oh, lovely. Cherries. Okay. Oh, there's some old lady fabric. I'm not a big fan of yellow. I don't mind using it, but in small amounts. Well, that could be just about anything. Oh, putrid green. Lovely. Oh, really putrid green. Looks like it's got shamrocks on it. Okay. I don't know. Vintage style. This is interesting. Oh, this is god awful. And this one does not impress me much either. This one has potential. And so does this, and this, and a purple. Now I like this gray. It's kind of shiny. Could be fun. Kids, a little tiny baby blanket, very tiny. Oh, and nobody can have too much raccoon fabric. That's kind of drab. Oh God, hate it. White. Well, you can always use white. That's all right. Something a little retro, maybe. Okay, again, reminds me of, it might be William Morrison, I don't know, in design, but it's, you know, again, what I call old lady fabric. And when I say old lady, I mean somebody in their age of about 130. Same with that. Another piece of that. Oh, and here's something, I don't know, this one's, it's not really jumping out at me, but there is something about it that's kind of catchy, but I don't know what it is. So there we go. Now, what the heck am I going to do with these? Well, I think what we should have done, but it's an afterthought, is I think we should have taken all of these scraps and had a challenge. Make something with them. So what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to put them all together as a piece of fabric. You know, just willy-nilly, sew them all together, square it up, and maybe make a tote bag out of them. Maybe use it as an abstract piece with something else. I don't know. I'll try to do something with them, but first I'll have to iron them all out and kind of square them up so I can sew them together. And I don't know what I'm going to get. You know, I'll sew them together and then throw them out. No, maybe. Who knows? Anyways, coffee time. But anyways, it was fun the other night, and everybody seemed to have a really good time, and we had a good turnout. We had over 60 people, and as I said, I think our guild has about 70 some people in it, so that was pretty good. We even had one guild member who just recently went into the hospital. She had, I'm not sure how you say it, you know, she had a clot in her lungs, and she joined us from the hospital last night. A Zoom is amazing, really. You know, there's no limits to it. So that was great for her that she was able to join in on us, because she's a very active member in our guild, and I know she would have been disappointed if she missed it. Okay, so what's next? What am I going to be working on next? Really, these are plans for the new year. So, first of all, our guild is going to do a mystery quilt. For $15, you get the pattern. I think each month you get a different block. I've never really done a mystery quilt. Well, that's not quite true. I did a mystery quilt. It's in my UFO section, actually, right now, because I haven't got it layered, as a class. But I kind of cheated on that because I want to know how much fabric I was going to need and, you know, to coordinate it all. So I kind of found the pattern online and read ahead with that. So it wasn't much of a mystery to me. But this one probably is a mystery. Now, I don't know how they're going to work that because supposedly we're going to get the pattern in advance. So, and we're going to be told how much fabric we need, and which is good. So I don't know how this really works. As I said, I've never really done one before. But for 15 bucks, and the idea is, I guess we'll have it done in about September, and we're starting in January. So it's something. It might be fun. I've often thought of doing one of those block of the month kind of things. I haven't got around to it. I always figure I'll get behind. Although apparently Northcott is going to come out in 2021, at least according to one of the guild members last night. So I'm not so sure how accurate this information is, so don't quote me on it. But it's coming out with one, and this particular person, I don't know how she got it, but she got it all in advance to try it out or something. It was beautiful. I really liked it. Several people commented on, you know, they want to be part of that. So that's something I might consider, because I do love Northcott's fabrics. I buy a lot of their fabric. So we'll see. So that's the mystery quilt with the guild. And I am still working on my grandmother's quilt, you know, the redo from the original, from her original design. And of course, I've already started to change it. I think I've already shown you this, but I'll just show it to you again. These are the first 2 rows done. I want to see how it was going together in the way that I'm making it. So there they are. I think it's going to look really nice, but the way I am doing the little semicircles that are in there, I am not using a drunkard's path ruler to cut them out and then sew them, sew curved ones. I started trying that, and I did tell you about that. And that just wasn't working out for me very well, for one reason or another. Well, one of the reasons was I was doing it wrong. I'm an idiot. That's why I call this the Idiot Quilter. But I just thought it was tedious. And trying to get the curves lined up properly and the whole bit. And the squares are very small, because what you want is this kind of thing when you're done. And these are the blocks that you'll use to make each row. Okay, but I found a different way, and I already went over and showed that to you, and that's where I am basically using my circular sewing tool for my Janome, and I'm cutting out the circles, putting them on a 10-inch square. The circles are about 7 inches in size, and I create blocks that look like this, and then I take the block and I cut it into 4 equal quarters, and that gives me 4 of these, which is what the quilt is made up of. There's 3 different styles, and I've got almost all of them done as far as making them like this yet. They're not cut yet. I still have a few more to go, and then I can cut them, and then I can start sewing the rows. And this process is much faster with the circular sewing. It's a blanket stitch, so in a sense I'm doing applique. Somebody asked me, are you going to cut the excess fabric away? So, you know, you've got this, but basically you have this underneath, right? And you could cut it away, but you know, it doesn't add that much bulk to the overall quilt. I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to worry about that at all. So the answer to that question is no, I'm not going to cut the excess fabric away. I'm just going to leave it. So I'm very pleased with the progress I've made on this so far. I was originally going to sew it row by row. And when I need 12 of those little, I think they're 4.5 inch squares for each row. There's 16 rows in total. And I was thinking, okay, I've got 2 rows done together. I'll make the next row, next row, next row, and that kind of thing. But I don't think I will because of the way the colors are working out. I want to be able to lay them out and put them in, you know, a very specific order for this. So that's why I'm sewing all of those circles onto the background squares first. Then I'll cut them all into quarters. Then I'm going to take it and lay it all out and figure out which ones are going to go in which rows, and then I'll do the rows. Then after that, it's the border. And my grandmother's quilt had prairie points on it, and my first reaction was I'm not doing prairie points, but now I'm thinking I might do the prairie points. I'm trying to make it as close to what my grandmother created, except in the color scheme that I like, and taking advantage of the technology that we have now that she did not have back in the late 70s, early 80s when she made the original quilt. So I will be showing you my progress with that as time goes on. Okay, now there is some other projects that I'm doing as well. And one of those, or well, things I need to get done, put it that way, UFOs. Okay, I have 7 of them hanging up there that I need to get to. I need to quilt them. They're done, the tops are done. So that is my goal for next year, is to get those quilts done. And I'm just going to show you the first 2, and over the next few episodes I will show you each UFO out of the set. So I've got 2 here to show you. I'm just going to get up, bring my microphone with me, and let's move this out of the way. Okay, I'm just going to stop the video for just a second because I need to get up on a stool to move that one out of the way. Okay, so I've got a couple of my UFOs hung up here so you can get a better look at them. I did these some time ago. I can't remember how long ago I did them. These 2 that I'm about to show you are my own design. They were basically made up from scraps. So I have the first one, does not have a name, but it was made with the Stonehenge fabric. I think it started out as a pattern and it wasn't working out for me, so I altered it. Yeah, I really like it. This is sort of my color palette. If I'm, if I move outside of blue, this is probably where I lean towards. And you can see it is a square quilt. And yep, I need to get that done. Now, the second one, and take my microphone with me here. And this is the second one. And this one, I did something similar to what I'm doing with my grandmother's quilt. Although I started this one a long time before I ever even thought about replicating my grandmother's quilt. These are circles in a square, but they were done using the circle tool, the sewing circle tool on my Janome. And of course, I'm not cutting these ones. So what I did do was I just went around and I used a satin stitch around each one and created that center part. And then I played around with designs for borders in this, as you can see. Again, a lot of this was made up of things I had left over. They were just scraps. I am not following any kind of pattern. This is my own pattern as such. If you can say anything's your own pattern. Really, you see so many pictures of quilts, I think subconsciously we draw on those. I'm going to call it Circle in a Square. Original name, right? But yeah, I like the way it turned out. It's also square. I don't know, I sometimes end up making square quilts for some reason. And so I have some ideas as to how I'm going to quilt that. I think I may do some sort of simple design in the middle of each circle. Then I think I'll do in the ditch, in the inside square, and then I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the outside borders with it yet. So it will be an experiment. But yeah, I kind of like it. It's one thing, you see, I hang these up and I forget what they look like. And then I look at them and go, whoa, did you make that? Whoa. Pat me on the back. Okay, so those are 2 of the 7 UFOs I have yet to quilt. So on the next episode, I'll try to get my stool in here. Okay, that's better. I will show you some of the other ones as well. So, other projects. Okay, I have got a project that I've been sitting on. Wait, before I get to it, I do have some patterns. Now, I collect patterns. I see a pattern I like online and I will download it and print it out. Now, a lot of my patterns are freebies because I'm cheap. Okay, but there's a lot of really decent free patterns online. So I isolated a few of them because they caught my eye. One of them was a carpenter's wheel, and the fabrics I want to use for that is a strip pack called Royal Knights. It's by Wellington, and yeah, I really like the colors in this, and I think they'll look really great in that design. Now, I do believe there aren't any Y seams in this. I'm just taking a look to see. Yeah, there might be. I don't know. It's a Jordan fabric design. So I think there's a tutorial as well for it. I don't think there's any Y seams in it. If there are, I will do it. I've done Y seams before. Not my favorite. I don't think they're anybody's favorite, but it can be done. Now, I saw this one. I think it was in a magazine, and I photocopied it out of the magazine. And it's called River Path Quilt. Might be a Missouri Star. No, by the looks of things, it's not a Missouri Star, because Missouri Star would not give you this detailed of a pattern. They don't. They keep them to one page. I guess they figure because they have tutorials for all of their patterns online, you can watch those. I would still like fully explained instructions. So it looks like this, and this is my colorway. It's Northcott again, gradation chips it's called, and it calls for you make it with 5-inch squares. So I've got a couple of packs of 5-inch squares and some leftovers from something else. I'm not sure how many of those I need. I probably looked at it and made sure that I had enough. 2 packages, it said, of 5-inch prints, so I've got enough there, and I think they use the Drunkard's Path ruler. So I will have to sew curves. Yep, but this time I'll do it right. Okay, so that's those 2, the Carpenter's Wheel and this River Path, are both somewhat challenging patterns. I also have this one. It's more of a classic. I think they call it and it's a Missouri Star quilt. I think it came from Block Magazine. Block Magazine has detailed instructions, and it's excellent. If you've never seen one, go to your local quilt store or whatever and pick up one. Or you can go online too and download them electronically to your iPad or whatever. Now this one takes Drunkard's Path. That one might not take Drunkard's Path. Why am I leaning towards Drunkard's Path? I don't know. But they don't seem to have a name for this. Okay. It was probably on another page. So I'm not sure what it's called. But there's the design. I want to say that this is a Bird of Paradise one, but I'm not sure if that's really the name. Yes, it is. I found it. Yes, it is a Bird of Paradise quilt. I hate the colors they've used in it, but I'm thinking of doing it in these. And these are gradients of blue. They're purples and blues and things all in here. I don't want to take it out of the package. Well, I could. There we go. Well, you still can't really see it that well, but you see the thing. I think this would make a nice looking quilt from this. because basically it looks like they've done it sort of scrappy in style. Now it says here I need 4 packages of 5-inch print squares. I only have 3. Why is that? Why do I only have 3 of these? I thought I bought a 4th one. I'll have to look in my stash to see if I've got one that's hiding somewhere. But that's 3 quilts right there that I would like to do. Now there's another one. This one I did buy the pattern for. It's a comes from the I think Cozy Quilt. It's a strip club pattern, and it is a Dresden quilt, and it uses strips for this. And so I've got my strips right here, and I think these are K-facet strips. Yes, they are, and I love K-facet fabrics, and I think they would make a really cool pattern. Now I do have a ruler for cutting these, and I already tried cutting some just as a practice to see how difficult this would be. Yeah, there we go. Just did it on some scrap fabric. They're not hard to make once you get going on them, but that's why I wanted to try them, just to see, you know, how difficult they are, because they had this point, right, but the point just folds over. So actually it's very, very easy. So that's another project for the new year. So I have 4 quilts here as projects for the new year. That's going to keep me busy, but there's more. Now, you know I love Australia, and I talk about it all the time. I've been to Australia and New Zealand 3 times. Excuse me while I have some coffee. And when I was in Australia the last time, I collected Australian fabrics. I purposely sought out Australian fabric stores, quilting stores, and I wanted stuff that spoke to me of Australia. Now, Australia has a lot of indigenous types of designs in their fabrics, which makes them kind of unique. And I've put them all in a box that I'm rifling through right now. And I've done some experiments for things, and I still have not come up with an actual idea as to how I'm going to do this. But here are my Australian fabrics, all in this box. Plenty of them in here. I've also tucked in here potential designs. Like I've got this, and I have this. I'm leaning towards having a quilt that has stars in it. I even thought of doing some embroidery because I've got some Australian animals, Australian animals that I could quilt, and I have some other things, or not quilt, embroider. I even took some of the pictures that I took when I was in Australia, and I copied them. I printed them on fabric. And my idea is these could be the center of a star design as well. So I don't know. The idea behind this quilt for me is it's sort of a memory quilt. It's like a scrapbook, but in quilt form, of my trips to Australia. Now, this will be my 2nd Australian quilt. The first time I went to Australia, I did a quilt, but I had just started into quilting, and what I did in terms of fabric was I bought tea towels that had things printed on them about different areas of Australia that I had visited on that trip. And when I got home, I did make it into a quilt, and it turned out pretty good, given the fact that it was one of my very, very early quilts when I first got into quilting. But it is heavy, because tea towels are heavy. But I was very pleased with the way it turned out. Well, this one I have actual Australian fabrics, as I've said, and now I know a little bit more than I did at that time, and that's why I want to put this together. The other thing I want to try and incorporate into this is an applique, and I've bought 4 applique patterns, one of each different type of animal. This is the kangaroo. This is the only one I've got done, and this was a year ago or so I did this, and I was just getting started with applique, and actually I was pretty impressed with myself. Machine applique. It's raw edge, but I have 3 more of these animals, and my idea was that these would become a a foundation for the quilt. Like I was thinking they might appear in 4 corners. They're pretty large blocks, or they might be all together as a central block. I think when you cut these down, they're about 20 inches in size, and I don't know yet. I'm still trying to design this. I think what's going to end up happening is I'm just going to not worry about it. I'll just start with maybe 1 or 2 or all 4 of these applique pieces and build the quilt around those. Maybe. I don't know. I have more than enough fabric to do more than one Australian quilt. I don't think I will do that. I think what fabrics are left over will just go into my stash and be incorporated into other projects as well. But that's another project that I really want to get done in 2021. Now, these are all the best laid plans of mice and men. And you know what happens with plans, don't you? They change, because I know I'm going to see a pattern that's going to jump out at me, and I'm going to say, oh, I've got to make that. And I have a whole box of patterns back there that I love. And literally, there's several hundred. So I'm never without a pattern. So if this COVID thing keeps going on for another year, well, I'll probably never have to leave the house in terms of fabric or in terms of getting patterns. But of course, half the fun of quilting too is shopping for fabric, isn't it? So anyways, those are my plans for 2021 in terms of quilt making. Okay, so what's that take us to next? Well, I thought I'd talk a minute about lack of motivation. I don't know about you, but I have been doing a lot of sewing, a lot of quilting throughout this COVID. Now, I do a lot whether it was COVID or not. In fact, every day I'm probably sewing something. But last week or so, I just lost my mojo. I wasn't interested. Now, part of that was that my attention was taken to my new toy, my 3D printer. And if you watch my vlog, I have talked about that. And that's my new obsession. So my mind was more on learning that technology and playing around with that than it was on doing quilting. Plus, I was a little bit worn out from all the Christmas stuff I had made. I did so much Christmas embroidery, and I did so many Christmas decorations and gifts and things like that, that I was a little bit quilted out. So I took a break. But sometimes it's really hard to get your motivation back up again. So I thought I'd spend a couple of minutes just talking about how I get inspired, what I do when I'm in that kind of mood. So I've put down several things. These are not in any order of preference. It's just whatever happens. One thing I often do is just search YouTube. I'm always looking for new YouTube channels of interest, because on my vlog I do review each week a new YouTube channel that I have found interesting. But when I do these kind of searches, I just basically go into the search engine for YouTube and I put in quilt or quilting or sewing or embroidery or something like that and see what comes up. And there'll be a whole list of things come up, hundreds of things. And I just scan through the list, and if the thumbnail or something catches my attention, I'll click on it and check it out. I have gotten a lot of ideas. I've learned a lot of different techniques, and I find those really inspiring. Even watching somebody else quilt when they're doing a tutorial or something like that inspires me, gets me in the mood again to do that kind of thing. So that's one thing I use. Of course, the other thing you can do is check out magazines, either online or offline. Now, right now, it's very difficult for us to go out and purchase magazines or rifle through them in a local bookstore or newsstand, that kind of thing. But you may have a few laying around your house, and I do, or even books. You may have had a lot of these for years. Maybe revisiting them helps. Just leafing through, and you go, wow, I don't remember that one before. Maybe because I wasn't in the mood to do that kind of one before or not, but now it's triggering something in me, and that inspires me as well. I told you I have a lot of patterns, that I collect them. Well, you can go to some of your favorite quilting websites and see what they offer that are free. You can buy some too, but you know, if you don't want to really make the investment in it, most online quilting stores have free patterns of some sort. So maybe that will inspire you as well. And having said that, go through the patterns you've already collected, because I am sure I'm not the only person that collects patterns. And as I said, I have a collection of probably well over 200 patterns, and I can just rifle through those and go, oh, I forgot about that one. Because there's a reason why I printed out that pattern and put it in that basket, because at the time I liked it, but I have forgotten about it. So go back, revisit your stash of patterns and see what inspires you. Now you can also go on to like Pinterest. I stay away from Pinterest. I do not like Pinterest. It's idea overflow. There's so much happening on Pinterest the way it's set up that I find it overwhelming. However, having said that, sometimes you go down the rabbit hole with Pinterest and you can find all kinds of interesting things that give you some inspiration, and you can pin them to your own board or whatever for future reference. So that's a form of inspiration as well. Check out your own home, your art that you have on the walls, your home decor, patterns in your fabrics, on your furniture, in your carpets, things like that. I have found that those have given me inspiration. I have a big carpet out in my rec room that's very modern, and it's all in colored blocks. And I've often looked at that, and that has given me inspiration. There was a quilt that I made. It didn't look like the carpet when I was done, but it inspired me to do some things with geometric shapes. So look around your own home. After all, you put those things in your house, so you know that they work for you, because it is a representation of your taste and of your style. So why not translate that into a quilt design? Other things you can check out is Facebook groups. There are lots of Facebook groups dedicated to quilting, and just seeing what other people have created. Many times I have seen something someone has put up, finished product, and I've asked them, what's the pattern? Where did you get the pattern? Or in some cases, I've seen what other people have done, and that has inspired me to design something on my own. So again, it's a way of inspiring your mojo. And of course, check out designer websites as well. Fabric designers like Northcott, all the names out there, Kona, things like that. Again, they show you samples featuring their latest lines of fabrics, but they can serve as inspiration as well. So I find if I spend an hour, even less sometimes, doing one or several of these things, that my mojo comes back and away I go. I want to sew again. The other thing too you can do is, do you have to do a quilt? Why not do a wall hanging? Why not experiment with thread painting? Why not do a tote bag or a little zippered pouch? Anything that just gets you back into sewing. And I find that inspirational as well. So those are just some tips and ideas for, if you're feeling that you're in a slump, and it's easy to fall into that slump, especially right now when, you turn on the TV and the news is never good about anything. And you can get a little depressed. Well, I find the best way to get out of the depression is to sew, to quilt, to create something. Okay, so speaking of creating things, I want to give a shout out to a YouTube channel I just came across called Cabinboyknits. Now, I don't knit, but what's very interesting about this YouTube channel is, well, one, they're Canadian guys. Two, they are members of my tribe. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more, say no more. And I think they live in Northern Ontario, so my province as well. And I'm interested in any YouTube channels out there that feature Canadians, of course. These guys dye their own wool. I looked to see if they have a website you can go to, and they do. You can go to cabinboyknits.ca. But it just comes up with a picture of him hanging skeins of wool that he has dyed up in front of his cabin. They live in a cabin. It's a beautiful cabin. It looks like it's out in the woods somewhere. But they don't seem, something says coming soon. So I guess he hasn't really got that up yet. But he is a business as well. And the unique thing I find too when I was watching this is the whole process of dyeing wool, how he does it. And he also makes his own dyes using a lot of natural objects or natural ingredients that he has foraged in the woods, like oak leaves and nuts and things like that. So I find that really an interesting process. And even though I'm not a knitter, I would like to try to dye my own fabric someday. And so things like this kind of appeal to me, because even though he's dyeing wool, maybe his techniques are transferable to fabric. I don't know. I know there's probably a chemistry or science behind dyeing stuff, but you know, give it a shot. What the heck? I love to experiment. So that's a site you may want to go to, and I will put the link to Cabinboyknits in my show notes today. Okay, so final thoughts from today. Again, this sort of fits in with how to get back your motivation. Do a virtual retreat if you've never done one. Don't be shy. There's lots of them online. Just do a search on YouTube or on Facebook or just on Google, and you'll find many, and many of them are free. And don't be shy, because everybody's using Zoom these days. You'll maybe make some new friends with that. It's very social. Quilters tend to be a very friendly lot. They do not pass judgment. They're very supportive. If you're just starting out in this hobby, then you can glean a lot of information from people who have a little bit more experience, and most quilters are very willing to share. But I love online or virtual retreats. I do. I was on one last weekend with my guild. I belong to several different men quilting sites on Facebook, and one of those is the Canadian Male Quilters, and they're talking about having a quilting retreat, a virtual one, on Christmas Day, which actually isn't a bad idea, because especially this year, we can't get together with friends and family on Christmas Day because of COVID, and if you are, don't. That's all I'm going to say about that. Just don't. And virtually, yeah, I got lots of time on Christmas Day. Why not so? So anyways, that's one thing. And another thing is, if you've not ever thought of it, or you have thought of it but haven't done it, join a guild. Most of the guilds right now, guilds, not gills, that's on a fish, guilds are doing things virtually. My guild is, we hold all our meetings virtually. Like I said, last night we had a Christmas party virtually, and it's working out really well. And in some ways, I personally prefer the virtual guild meetings, because you don't have to drive anywhere, especially this time of the year. The weather is not really conducive to driving, especially at night. As a member of the executive, we don't have to pay anybody for a haul. We don't have to worry about setup. Well, setup for the Zoom, but once you've done it once, it's easy. And we're being very safe. Plus, when we have a guest speaker, that all the guest speakers we hire now for our presentations at our guild are all doing it virtually, and it cuts down costs because we don't have to pay them for travel time, and in some cases you might have to pay them for accommodation as well as their lecture fee. They can show things to you close up and personal, because you're not sitting in a hall and they're way up on stage up in front of you. You can see everything on your screen. So check it out. Do a search for guilds in your area, and it's worth the effort. It really is. I enjoy going to my guild this way virtually. And I have learned since I've belonged to the guild. I think I've belonged to the guild now for 3 years. I've learned so much. And usually people in a guild, most of them, I'm going to reserve my other comments for this for another time, are very, very friendly and very, very helpful. So it's another way. So if you're feeling isolated, and part of the reason why you might not have any mojo left is because you are feeling isolated, and that's creating a sense of depression in you, then join a guild online. Go to a sewing retreat online. That is going to inspire you. And don't ever think that because you may be at a different stage than other people are. Everybody is at a different stage when you go to a sewing retreat. We all started somewhere, and we're all headed somewhere. Okay? So don't worry about it. Don't compare yourself to other people when you're doing a quilting at a sewing retreat. No one's going to pass judgment on you. They'll only help you out, and don't be afraid to ask. So that's it for me today. There'll be another episode probably in another week's time. Show you some more UFOs and talk about some more of my plans, and I don't know what else I'll talk about at that point, but I'm sure there'll be other things come up that I want to share with you. So thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you soon. Have a good week. Stay healthy. Stay safe. Bye-bye.